Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I have one of my real life heroes on the show. This man, along with several other people that were involved in the movie The Secret, changed my life many years ago. His name is Dr. Joe Vitale. I am beyond grateful that he is on the show today. I'm going to let him in on a little secret here in a minute about him being on this show. I manifested that many years ago, so I'll just throw it out there. But listen, if you would do me a favor, everybody watching, share this out to everyone you know. Let's change some lives today and break through some walls. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Dr. Joe Vitale. And we're back. Let me bring Dr. Joe on. Dr. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this moment. This is making history for me. I'm finally here.
I know you're a little late. I manifested this many years ago.
Right. We had a long list of people to interview before me. I saw your sizzle reel there, and I'm very impressed. So I'm also very honored. Thank you for bringing me.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored. I want to give a special thank you and shout out to Cleona.
Yeah.
Cleona's an amazing lady and a good friend of both of ours. And we're going to talk about all the stuff because you're now the president of the Napoleon Hill Institute, which is
I am.
Wow, incredible. So incredible. So Dr. Joe, I selfishly started the show, if I'm completely honest. I was stuck in life, and I thought, I'll bet you if I interview enough famous people, I can figure out how to get. And it worked. It worked. So
it's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
brilliant idea.
Thank you. I would love to hear, for anybody that doesn't know, where did it all begin for you? Where were you born and raised?
I was born on planet Earth.
That's a good start.
Yeah, I'm not Superman. It wasn't another planet, Anyway, I guess it might have felt like it. I was born in a small town in Ohio, Niles, Ohio.
No way.
That is where William McKinley, the 25th president of the United States, was born. And anybody that goes through Niles knows it because there's a gigantic memorial library there, which was one of the great gifts in my life growing up. So Niles, Ohio, northeastern Ohio.
I am from northwestern Ohio.
No way.
In fact, we just moved to Dallas, Texas 2 years ago from another town in Ohio that President Harding is from, Marion.
Oh, yes, Marion, Ohio. Right.
Yeah. My wife is on here.
You took a long time to get to Dallas. I went to Dallas pretty quick. I think it was 1972. 76, somewhere in there. I ended up in Dallas. Wasn't a party, but that's where I went.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is humongous now. It's crazy. But so you were born in Niles, Ohio, and is that where you were raised? Was in Niles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to
school and everything there.
Oh yeah, Niles McKinley High, the McKinley Dragons, all of that. That's where I was. That was where I was born. I went to Kent State University at Kent from 72 to 76.
That's where my father-in-law went to college.
Kent really?
State. He played football there. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I just played there.
Do you ever get back? Do you ever get back to Niles, Ohio?
Well, my remaining family is still in Niles, and I was there a few months ago for a wedding. But otherwise, no. I'm on the extreme far end of the country now, so it's not an
Yeah.
easy trek to get back. But
Yeah.
I have great
Yeah.
memories of Niles and of Kent State. Yes.
Wow. So you went to college. Look, a friend of mine's on here that works for a company based in Niles, Ohio.
Oh, interesting.
There are companies based in Niles? That's a question.
They're probably very small companies, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened after college? What did you what was your major in college?
Well, I was only semi-joking when I said when I was at college and all I did was play, because I was not a serious student. I barely attended any of the classes. I failed most of the classes I did attend. I did experiment with a lot of things, including extracurricular activities and all kind of things, trying to find my way and find what interested me. My stated major was public relations journalism, and my minor was American English.
Okay.
And those were just, you had to state something. So I was kind of in those directions, but really, I didn't know anything. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to write, but I hadn't
Okay.
found my path or my road or the easy button through life.
Yeah.
And so state was wandering in the dark. And you asked what happened after it? That's when I went to Dallas, and that's where I was homeless.
Oh, wow.
1976, I went to go fulfill my dream, and my dream said, you're going to have to wait a little bit because the first thing you're going to have is a nightmare. And I got chills even talking about it now. Yeah, I went to Dallas, Texas, and you say it's a boomtown now. For a small town kid from Niles, Ohio, Dallas was a metropolis from another planet. This was
Whoa.
crushingly overwhelming for me. And like I say, I went homeless. It was not an easy time.
So we also shared that in common. I've been homeless. It was in Seattle, however.
Mm.
But and it sucks
Right.
being homeless. I've been wealthy. I say this a lot. I've been wealthy. I've been homeless. Wealthy is better.
Right.
Like,
And we got to make a choice. Go with the wealthy. Exactly.
Yeah, right. So you went through all of that, and I mean, do you feel like, and this is going to be an out of left field question.
Those are my favorite questions.
I wrote in my first book that I homelessness was a choice for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't an intentional choice, but it was
Exactly.
a choice nonetheless.
Right.
And my question for you is, do you feel that there's some truth to that?
It's actually a very wise question. And yes, I feel that now. I didn't feel it then. I would say it was more of an unconscious choice. I didn't know that I was making any sort of decisions that were influencing my life in such a negative, despicable, unforgettably depressing way. But one of my wake ups was to realize we all have unconscious beliefs and we're living from them. And we really have to look at the results we're getting and then track back to find out what might be the beliefs operating to create that. And I did that right after homelessness. But in homelessness, no, hell no. I blamed everybody else. I blamed Dallas. I blamed the world. I blamed God. I blamed the situation, my parents, anybody I can point at. It was like, you did it, not me. And so I did awaken to my self-creation, but not right away. Not at all.
How long of a period was that for you?
Well, the homelessness was a short period of time, but as I tell people, you don't want to be homeless for even a day,
No.
because some people said, "What kind of car did you live in?" And I'm like, "A car would have been incredibly fantastic." I'm sleeping in bus stops and the public library on benches outside of the library. It's like I didn't have a car. It's one reason I'm interested in cars now. I didn't have them back then. I'm going to make up for lost time.
Right.
And then I went through poverty for 10 years. Poverty was 10 years. Yeah. And most of that was in Houston, if not all of that was in Houston. So this is what I mean. I know what the dark night of the soul is, and I say it's not a night. That was a dark decade or more of the soul. Homelessness and poverty.
I hate to say this. It's not meant to be offensive, but I love that about you, and I love that about your story, because I think there's too many gurus out here,
Mm.
um, painting a different picture of everything's always hunky dory because I always made the right decisions, and that's just not reality for most people.
And I don't think it's reality for anybody. I
No.
think the truth of the matter is, especially for all of us who just went through COVID, is that life throws unpredictable curveballs at you. You can sit and visualize your life path all you like. You can sit and meditate all you like. You can sit and script all you like. But if life says, you know what, we're giving you this bug called COVID and you're going to be shut down for a while, all your meditating, all of your scripting, all of your affirming, all of that now doesn't help unless you learn to detach from everything, which was one of the gifts
Mm.
that I hope a lot of people got from COVID. But part of what I do is I say, look, I was in the movie The Secret. I'm one of the guys who talked about you can have, be, or do anything you like. And I've written books along those lines. But I too have gone through homelessness. I too have gone through poverty. I too went through the COVID. I too went through a divorce during COVID and lost my parents during COVID and the divorce. And I had a younger family member attempt suicide all during that period. And I was in a new relationship with a woman who developed neural Lyme disease and was on her deathbed, and I was helping her during this period. So I'm telling people, look, I believe in magic and miracles. I believe in the law of attraction, the secret, all of the things I've written about and stand for. And you also have to be able to adapt and adjust and go with the flow of life as you make your choices on how you would like to have life be. So anyway, that was a long answer to whatever you asked me.
It was a fantastic answer. I think for me, this is just me. I think the hardest thing in life is what you just said, detaching
Yeah.
from unexpected outcomes. Like it's so, especially as an entrepreneur, but like, like you things come at you sometimes and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming at
Right.
all.
Which
Right.
is why the most important thing for us to do is to develop that inner resource inside of ourselves so we can go with the flow. I tell people, look, you got more control and more influence over your life than you ever imagined. But you don't have all control or all influence. You are a God. You are not the God. So you get to play at a very high level and you get to experiment and choose and do all of the things you would love to do. And at the same time, there may be another hand that's dealt to you that because you developed your inner resources, you can go with. But don't think you're
Wow.
God.
No, because God will show you otherwise, or life will.
Yeah, life, God, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you're in Dallas, you go through this period of whatever length of homelessness, and Houston too, which is actually a really, at least the climate in Houston's nice and cool, never gets hot there. Um like what? I couldn't imagine. It's so hot in Houston. I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Right.
Um, so you go through this period of poverty.
Hmm.
Was there a moment that you can recall where suddenly it just flipped? Like you were like, I get it now. Boom. I'm on the way to massive wealth and cars and everything.
I don't think there was one moment. I think there was a series of awakenings. And each one of those awakenings gave me a renewed passion and interest for life. And so I can move further down the road because of the awakening. One of the first awakenings was I was reading all these self-help books, from The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I had no money for books, but I was living in the public library of Dallas. So in many ways, it's like, wow, the abundance and wisdom of the world is here and it's all mine, free. I just Can't sleep
Mm.
anywhere. I got, no home, no car, no nothing. But I'm reading all these books and they keep talking about the beliefs and your choices and the unconscious mind. And during that time when I was really wrestling with why am I homeless? Why am I suffering? Why is it taking so long for me to be an author? I wasn't doing anything to hurt myself. I wasn't into drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff. I had a dream and I'm trying to follow my dream. Why is it taking so long? And so the first aha was when I explored what beliefs might contribute to my being homeless. And I had the aha, the awakening, that I had beliefs that I needed to suffer in order to succeed. That was one of the beliefs. Another belief was I was studying the lives of authors I admired, like Jack London and Ernest Hemingway, great American writers, classics of American literature. They killed themselves. I mean, one with a shotgun and one with drugs. And I kind of unconsciously thought I have to have this dramatic, colorful, kind of sad, miserable, maybe even suicidal life in order to achieve the success they did. When I questioned it and said, wait a minute, is that true? And I thought, no, it's not true. There are authors out there who are happy, healthy, productive, profitable, making a difference, having a family, living their lives. And I thought, wait a minute, I want to model those guys and gals and leave Jack London and Ernest Hemingway back in the realm of great writers, but not great lifestyles to model. So that was one of the first wake ups, is to realize, wait a minute, I am creating my life from my beliefs, but my beliefs are unconscious. I got to pause long enough to look for them. I didn't have a coach back then. I didn't know what coaching was back then, except, little league coaching and football coaching back in the 70s and early 80s. So that was one of the first wake ups right there.
Wow. Okay. So I always bought books and tapes, not because I could afford it, but I don't know. I never went to the library. I don't know why. I just never did. I've heard that it's a really cool place to go, however. I love books. I read a lot, but I've never been to a library. So you started having these shifts, these awakenings. And were you working? I mean, you were homeless, but did you have any odd jobs here and there?
That is a great question. My father took me to work when I was 5 years old, literally.
Wow.
He was working on the railroad tracks and he took me there and I thought, I'm going to work with my dad. How cool is that? No, he put a sledgehammer in my hands. He put a pitchfork in my hands and he taught me to be a gandy dancer, which is a laborer on the tracks in the weather. And I did most of that for most of my life growing up in Niles and even going through school. And one thing I learned is I hated it. This is why I want to be an author. I want to be indoors. I'll punch a typewriter and those keys back then and not use the forks and all this kind of stuff. The point being with this, when I got to Dallas and I got to Houston, I wasn't afraid of work. So I can take labor jobs. Back then, I think there was a company called Manpower who would get you temporary work with some warehouse or some inventory place. And you'd go and do whatever the grunt work was. Usually it was very unpleasant and dirty and sweaty and uncomfortable. But when I got to Houston and I was doing that, I found that Houston was such a boom town in the late 70s, early 80s, that I would quit a job in the morning and have another one right after lunch because they needed laborers. And I'm not talking about the white collar stuff. This is where you got a sweatband and your handkerchief and you're out in the Texas heat. So I took lots of little jobs. One of the most awful ones I took that's just coming to mind now for some reason. I was a yellow cab driver in Houston, Texas for maybe a few days. And only for a few days because I realized, back then, this is before the internet and your cell phone and all that stuff. So it comes over a dispatch and they say, go pick so-and-so up on Montrose Avenue. And I'm like, where the hell's Montrose Avenue? and by the time I figured out where it was, some other cab driver scooped in, picked up the person and drove off. I cried. I was so unhappy with those jobs and those attempts because I kept thinking, I want to be an author. I want to write things that make a difference. Isn't that a noble cause? Shouldn't that be blessed by the powers that be in the invisible world? Why am I struggling? And a whole lot of it had to, then, I didn't know it then, but a whole lot of it had to do with beliefs of deservingness, beliefs about what it takes, beliefs about success, a lot of beliefs.
So, wow is my response to all of that. I've got to say this because I'm listening to Joe Vitale's Ultimate Law of Attraction Library from Nightingale Conan,
Right.
which is, look, it's right there.
Yeah,
I can
that's
prove
it.
it. The
Wow.
green screen effect is, and it's fantastic. But you talk about it is, and I highly recommend that everybody go get that on Audible. It's amazing. But you talk about in there, you know, I'm a recovered alcoholic, 22 years sober almost next month, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And I went through the 4 times homeless and all the stuff, right? And you talk a lot in here about, and I love this about. I'm paraphrasing, so please correct me. But kind of going back and finding out what the cause of these feelings or beliefs
Yeah. Yeah.
is or could be, and getting rid of them,
Yes.
clearing them, clearing them.
Yes. Yes.
And so when you look back at your homelessness and your yellow cab days and your you know the all the like, have you looked at it and went, this is why, this is the reason that I didn't feel good enough?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I'm in my 70s now, so I've had plenty of time to pause, turn around, and look back and go, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? And I'm going to tell you that the great insight, we've been talking about awakenings and everything. I think
Yeah.
I think this is my personal contribution to the self-improvement industry as a whole, is that I discovered we have what I call counter intentions. So everybody here probably knows about intentions because I've talked about intentions, and Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield and all the people in The Secret talk about intentions. What's your intention? State your intention. Go for your intention. And I say, yeah, that's all well and good. But if you have counter intentions in your subconscious mind, it will override, it will veto, it will slow down, if not stop, your conscious intentions. And so our work is to explore ourselves, usually with a mentor or a coach, somebody that's trained to be able to help you see it and hear it and find it and release it. Until you do that, you're going to be pretty much stuck. When I look back over my life and I go, first of all, I had the insight about homelessness was directly caused by blind spots in my own brain, by my own unconscious mind. So I extend it and go, okay, why am I in a yellow cab? Why am I taking all these jobs that are unpleasant? And there were some fundamental root cause beliefs. And this is what I think you're referring to in my audio programs that I did for Nightingale Conan. I said, we have to go to the root cause. What was the root cause? What was the root belief? So we can pluck it out, bring love to it, forgiveness to it, transmute it, transcend it. And once we do, we are freaking free. We are free. That's when you can have, do, or be what you want. That's when you accelerate your life to go in the direction of what you wanting to have. Because the only thing that was really slowing us down was us.
Yeah.
And that was the big wake up for me. I looked at that and said, I am not destined to be a yellow cab taxi driver. There's nothing in me that says, do this, Joe. Nothing. The only reason I even attempted it was because I was still coming from the survival mentality. Lack, limitation. I didn't believe that the world was abundant yet. I was still in the struggle, me against the mankind, me against the universe, which was a Jack London, Ernest Hemingway way of living life. So all of this is to kind of shed light on the big discovery is, sure, we have a conscious mind with our intentions, but we also have a subconscious / unconscious mind with a nest of beliefs that we probably downloaded, we didn't intentionally choose, that we're living from. And when we change those, and we erase the counter intentions, remove the root causes, now you can move faster to attain your heart's desires.
Geez, my brain right now, I don't think I can take much more. So no, I mean, it's everything you're saying is so freaking powerful. My wife put in here survival mentality.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I've been there. Like, if I can just survive another day,
Yeah.
you know, God's gonna show up or Ed McMahon's gonna ring the door. That would be weird since he's no right.
Right.
Somebody's gonna say, "Hey, you won, you
Right.
won."
Right.
But you know, I think we all won if we face the reality. We all won the day we were born.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So now you do talk a lot about, and I read one of my favorite authors of all time is Dr. Wayne Dyer. I've
Mhm.
read every single one of his books, some of them multiple times. And he talked about Ho'oponopono,
Ah,
and you talk about Ho'oponopono. And I would love for you to share with the audience how powerful Ho'oponopono is and what it is. And if I'm saying it right, I may be saying it wrong.
no, you're saying it perfectly. It's Ho'oponopono, and most people they scramble those words up and those syllables pretty bad. I usually say it's just the ho-ho method, just to reduce it to something easy to pronounce and remember. Ho'oponopono was one of the great gifts that I don't know. I was lucky enough, destined enough to stumble across, discover, and realize the impact of it, and thought, if this is as powerful as I suspect, and as the original story that got me involved was attesting to, that somebody needs to tell the world. And
Yep.
as luck turned out, or fate turned out, whatever you want to call it, I was led to be the one to bring it to the masses, to the world, with the first book called Zero Limits, which is still changing lives. So Ho'oponopono, when I first heard about it, I had heard this bizarre story of a therapist who helped heal an entire ward of mentally ill criminals, but not working on them. He worked on himself, and he used some Hawaiian spiritual technique that was called this weird name, Ho'oponopono. And I heard it and dismissed it because I thought, I believe in magic and miracles, but how can you heal mentally warped criminals working on yourself? It made
Right.
zero sense. So zero comes in as a very relevant concept as we go on. But I found the therapist. I interviewed the therapist. I flew to California. I was living in Texas at the time, did the first workshop with him, and I was blown away. He was teaching a very simple version of changing your inner reality by taking 100% responsibility for it. And I know as I say that, everybody's going, I know about 100% responsibility, because I thought I did too.
Mm.
But the therapist, whose name was Dr. E. Haleakala Hu Lin, Dr. Hu Lin said, have you heard the phrase, you create your own reality? And I said, of course, I'm one of the guys who gets on the soapbox and tells the world about it. He said, well, if you create your own reality and you have a person in your life, it could be a mentally ill criminal, or it's a nagging neighbor, or a child, or any number of situations, didn't you create that too? And it blew my mind, because I, like so many people, was unconsciously drawing a line in the sand and saying, yeah, I create my own reality, except for the bad stuff. That's where I draw the line and go, no, 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 that's that's the neighbor over there. And Dr. Hulen was saying in Ho'oponopono, it's 100% responsibility, and 100% responsibility is a mind stretch to a degree most of us never entertained. And what he was really saying is everything, everything, everything in your life, you are directly co-creating with what he called the divine. You can say God, nature, Gaia, whatever kind of word you want to use. And so Ho'oponopono is a very simple way of cleansing yourself of whatever is creating that experience that you don't want to take responsibility for. So the first step is to take responsibility. What you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're calling a problem, you only experience it in you. You don't experience it out there. You only experience it in you. That's the first clue. And then as you're experiencing whatever this upset is, and there's 1,000 different names for it, you want to pretend you're having a prayer with God or the divine, and you're saying, thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Or, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. You can mix up the words. And basically it's petition to the great something to remedy this situation. And if I can take one more minute here, Ken, to
Sure, please.
elaborate. When you're saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, you're basically saying, please forgive me for being unconscious. It doesn't mean please forgive me because I did something bad. It's please forgive me because I did something unconsciously. I'm sorry for wherever the beliefs came from, whether it's from my ancestors, whether it's from prehistoric times and we downloaded it, or whether it's from aliens, because in Ho'oponopono, they even
Right.
suspect Ho'oponopono came from another planet. I mean,
Right.
that's one of the theories. So
Yeah.
wherever it came from and we absorbed it, we downloaded it, I'm sorry for it. Thank you for erasing the limiting beliefs, correcting the problem, making things right. Ho'oponopono, the word, means to make right. What are you making right? Your perceptions. And then I love you, which I think is the most powerful phrase of all. I love you for the process. I love you for the cleaning. I love you for the clearing. I love you for recorrecting this so that I am free to live from the divine and experience the miracle of now. So that's like a condensed course in Ho'oponopono. I've ended up writing, I don't know, 4 books, Zero Limits. 10 years later, I wrote At Zero. Then I wrote
Wow.
The Fifth Phrase. And then right now, just days old, is a book called Zero Limits Living, which I think I see you have kindly put on the cover there on the banner. So I have seen everything cured, healed, resolved with Ho'oponopono. I've been doing this since 2005, and I've heard from everybody and his brother and sister and cousins and everything else. I mean, animal healings, and you're talking about relationships and finances and whatever you would name. Somebody's used Ho'oponopono to help remedy the situation. It is incredibly powerful.
It's so powerful. I agree 1000%. And quite honestly, it may have been your book that I first read. I honestly, I don't remember. I've read so many dang books. But you know, I'm driving with my wife. She volunteers at this horse and donkey rescue here in Salina, Texas. And so she's volunteering me to go with her to take care of some of them last night. Right. And we're driving and I'm listening to your amazing book that everybody needs to get. And I have it playing in the car while we're driving, and some idiot I'm kidding. This guy in a Lexus pulls right out in front of me on a 55-mile-an-hour road, and I'm screaming, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And then at that moment, exact moment, you said on this dang this recording, you know, perhaps you're driving right now listening to this and somebody cuts you off. It was like so aligned. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like it was amazing. But I think that the Ho'oponopono, people really need to learn that this is it's a magical key to everything that you desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a magical key because what it's doing is taking care of what I was referring to earlier as those unconscious blocks, those counter intentions. The beauty with Ho'oponopono is you don't have to know what the beliefs are that are stopping you. You don't have to name the problem. You just have to know something's off. And you could say, you know, there's something off with the economy. I'm not getting any sales and all of this, until you realize, okay, that's my experience of what's going on in the world right now. Let me see if I can clean it up. So I look into the world and see abundance rather than, as your wife pointed out earlier, scarcity. It's an inside job, and Ho'oponopono is a pretty easy way to do it. It doesn't cost you anything. There's only 4 phrases. You say them silently, so nobody even knows what you're doing. There have been many a times when I'm secretly doing Ho'oponopono in situations, and the whole world around me is going on with their buzz of chaos. But inside me, I'm like blissful.
I think I don't remember if it was you that wrote about this and I read this, or Wayne Dyer, and I put you on the same level with Wayne. So, you know, I think about, I think it was Washington, DC, that they decided to get a bunch of meditators together. And they meditated this, I think, of 24, 48-hour period, and crime went down.
That's right. That's right.
70% or something insane.
Right.
And that's part of that it's part of Ho'oponopono. I mean, it's sending out and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're sending out this energy of love and healing and forgiveness to whatever the situation is, and the result can only be good.
Well said. Yes. And those studies have been repeated numerous times. Lynn McTaggart and some other authors have been writing about them and exploring them. The one thing that most people don't talk about is when a group of people get together to practice some form of meditation, what they were measuring was the crime rate around those people. So if they're in a particular city, we'll say Niles, Ohio, and they all got together at Bob Evans Sausage, and they're doing their meditation, the crime rate all around there can be measured as going down. But the other thing that happens, for some reason people don't talk about it, the prosperity goes up. The prosperity goes up. So yes, we're changing our perceptions, we're changing our energy, and we're changing our vibe, our frequency, if you will, of what goes out. And when a group of people do this goes back to Napoleon Hill, and Lynn McTaggart wrote a book called The Power of Eight. It only takes 8 people. You get a mastermind together and you can transform not only your life and the people in the mastermind, but everybody in the mileage around you. So this is mind-blowing. There's so many incredible things that are happening and can happen as a result.
Philippa says, does Dr. Joe have a recording we could download of him saying the creed of Ho'oponopono? I would imagine.
Yeah, I've been recording and doing things. I'm sure if you did a YouTube search, you're going to find it. I've created Ho'oponopono music. I've got the Ho'oponopono phrases recorded. I think there's one track on the program you have, the Law of Attraction bundle, whatever that is, where there's 20 minutes of just me repeating, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So a little Google search would probably turn it up.
Or just go to Audible and buy the book. Get this book.
Well, there's always
so, I mean, that's I'm telling you, it's really, really powerful. So okay, I want to sorry, I may have taken us off the rails there for a minute.
I'm with you.
But so back to when you were still in Texas, you started having these awakenings. Yes. And did you start immediately writing books as you awakened? What happened? Where did it all kind of start shifting?
Well, I decided I wanted to be an author when I was like 16 years old. I had already gone through the imagination phase. I thought I was going to be the world heavyweight boxing champion, and Jack Dempsey was my hero. I thought I was going to be a famous baseball player, and Babe Ruth was my hero then. I thought I was going to be a famous magician, and Harry Houdini was my hero then. And then I looked around and thought, wait a minute, look at all these books. And look how much I like to read. Maybe I should be an author. And so I decided early on, but there was no overnight success. I was writing. I'd walk to that public library, the Niles McKinley Public Library. Love that library. It had books on metaphysics, philosophy. And at 16 years old, I was doing my best to read them and understand them and apply them, and books on how to write. And I was almost obsessed with learning this. But my first book wasn't until 1984, during the time I'm not homeless, but I'm in poverty and I'm living in a dump and I can't really afford it. And it was still struggling. So 1984, and you're talking about an awakening. Here's an awakening on the metaphysical and the marketing side. 1984, first book, Zen and the Art of Writing. Cause for celebration. Finally, I'm published. Finally, I'm published. And then the next morning, wait, nobody's bought my book. And nobody would buy that book. It's out of print. I saw it on eBay one time. There were 2 copies. One was selling for 2 cents and the other was selling for $2,000. I bought the 2-cent one. So I book. But that's when I awoke to, first of all, my beliefs of creating this. I felt like a failure. Here I am demonstrating failure. The second awakening was more on the physical level when I thought, how do people market books? And I went on a deep dive to learn marketing. And that ended up being a turning point because I learned marketing enough, applied it to myself and my books, that people started to take notice. I'm in Houston, it's before the internet. And I started to get invited to speak at breakfast groups, and I talk about my book. I heard if you spoke, and if they liked you, they might buy your book. Sold enough for gas money. But then people started asking me, how are you marketing your book? And I realized, oh, they'll pay me to tell them. and a consult was born. I became a consultant. And then,
Yeah.
of course, they said, can you write a sales letter? And I learned, oh, being a copywriter can pay big money. Became a copywriter. So I had this desire to be an author. I had a very metaphysical side to me entirely through my life, but I kept it hidden during most of that time. And then I learned, because of my first book, that publishers don't really know how to publish or market books. They know how to print them.
Yeah.
And if you have a glorified, prestigious publisher, maybe they'll get a little sales for you. But I had to learn it on my own. And it was another one of the wake ups, 1984.
Yeah. Wow. 1984. There's a famous book titled 1984. But
I didn't write that one.
Yeah. So, wow. And Cleona is on here watching. We love you, Dr. Joe Vitale. Love from your family at Napoleon Hill Institute. Cleona, thank you again. She probably missed my thanks in the beginning, but so grateful for
Cleona
her.
is an incredible person. She is wise. She is sharp. She is intuitive. She is spiritual. I can't say enough things about her. And she's the one who invited me to be president of the Napoleon Hill Institute. And I did not immediately say yes, because at the time I didn't know her. I didn't know what was being asked of me. Yeah. And of course, now I understand what a great honor that I get to help bring Napoleon Hill's truly spiritual, practical wisdom to the world, to dust off his legacy and show how relevant this material is. So that's all thanks to Cleona. She's amazing, truly amazing.
She is something. I mean, that woman is like, she's on a different level. And I'm friends with Don Green, as I'm sure you are. And I know she's just, and she's relentless. I mean, relentless. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's that times 10, whatever that is. So
I want to say something about that, Ken, because I don't know how much time we have, but there's a couple of things I want to make sure people hear. And you might get around to asking this question, but in case you don't, I'm just going to go ahead and answer it right now.
Bring it.
Because very often, well, it ties into you said about relentless with Cleona. And people have often asked me, what's the one thing that you did different that made you a success? Because you went through homelessness, you went through poverty, you go on to live the lifestyle of the rich and famous, you end up in the movie The Secret, you discover Ho'oponopono, bring it to the world, best-selling books. I'm in these movies like The Secret. I have my own movie in production. It'll probably come out later this year, early next. These tremendous things going on, and then new opportunities. Just awarded the U.S. President Lifetime Achievement Award, just being asked to be the president of the Napoleon Hill Legacy. I'm in my 70s, and I get up every morning. It's like I'm rushing down the day with enthusiasm. And so people ask me, what's the one thing you did to make all of this happen? And for a while, it frustrated me, but now I know there is one thing. It's the one thing I am still doing. It's the one thing I did and I'm still doing. And it's persistence. It's persistence. Even homeless, even in poverty, even during the nights when I wake up and it's like, I can't pay these bills. I may be evicted. I am still writing. I am still trying. And I think it's that word, persistence. I think it's better than relationships or friendships or leverage or talent or money or luck, all the things that people say, if I only had this, I could be a success. And I'm like, no, if you only persist, you will be a success. If you only persist, that's the big insight. And Cleona demonstrates that.
Amen. What he said. Like, I agree. That is Cleona. It really is. She's an amazing woman. I was texting her yesterday, just telling her how grateful I am for her being in my life. She's amazing. And I know how much she loves you and loves having you as the president of NHI, and I only see amazing things happening for that organization. I mean, it's going to be incredible. It is incredible, actually. So you wrote your first book in 84, and then how many books have you written in total? I should know that if I was a little bit better.
Oh, no, even I don't know that.
Oh,
I have people who say it's 93. With the latest one, Zero Limits Living, they said, that's your number 93. I'm too busy writing books to stop and count the books.
Wow.
And this is, Ken, it's another example of persistence. 1984, I write the book. I didn't know there would be a second book at that time. I didn't know there would be a second. And in fact, it would be 10 years before the next book came out. And when that came out, I did not know there would be a third, let alone a 93rd.
Wow.
You just keep moving forward and you look back and go, oh, yeah, 70 years have passed. Oh, yeah, 93 books have passed. Oh, yeah, you're a musician. 15 albums have been created. But that's not how it starts. You just start doing what you love and taking the action and being persistent. And over time, books get written.
Okay. So I've written, I was so proud of the 8 books I've written. Now I'm
Oh,
not.
you should be. Yes.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I think, I look at this and I talk to a lot of people about, right. You need to like write a book, like if nothing else, it's cathartic as hell. Like go write a book. Right.
Right.
Um, what do you think is stopping people from, okay, so I had Brian Tracy on the show, and
He's a prolific one. Yes.
oh my gosh, Brian is like back when I was 20, he completely rocked my entire world because I thought I knew how to sell, and until I listened to Brian Tracy. But I asked him this question. I want to ask you because I didn't like his answer.
Oh, interesting. What a lead up. Oh, wow. I'm now intrigued. You didn't like his answer.
I said, because he's always like, write it down, write it down, write it down. And I agree with that 1,000%. But I said, Brian, there's going to be people listening to this that are going to listen to you too, Dr. Joe. They're going to hear all this stuff and they know they need to do these things. They know that if they do these things, their life will completely change and only go up from there. How do you get those people that aren't doing it to change? And he goes, you can't. I went, no, that's not what I wanted to hear. He said, you can't change people. I said, no, I want to change people. How do you wake them up? How do you see any path to waking people up to what they're actually capable of?
I love your enthusiasm. I love how you tell stories, and I love that you put it in this way with Brian Tracy. Well, first of all, I agree with Brian. So, do you want to disconnect now?
I understand. Listen, I totally get it. It doesn't mean that I accept it, but I get it.
Yeah. No, but there is a way to help them, and that is by inspiring them. I have found that if you want to change people, you lead by example. You inspire them. In all of those cases I mentioned earlier, when I was a kid and I thought I was going to be a boxer and an author and this, that, and the other, I always had people who had gone before me. And because they went before me, they kind of inspired me. And they, on a subliminal way, told me that, well, if they can do it, then maybe Joe can do it. There was that possibility. And part of what I'm doing when I tell people about homelessness today and poverty and all the things I went through is realizing that when I didn't tell people, I wasn't helping anybody. Because they just assume, I think a little bit like you, that, well, maybe he was a success from birth. Maybe he came out and it was, they handed him his first published book as he was born. Right. And of course, we go through our life experience, our ups and downs and everything. And in learning about other people who were homeless, but went on to success, it told me, I have hope. I have hope. So nobody directly came and said, Joe, you have to change, and here's how you have to change. It was more a matter of, through their life story, through the examples, through the books I read, through the movies that might have said the same kind of thing, I concluded, oh, I can change. And that's how we change people, by being a model of inspiration.
And I find it, I'm going to ask probably a somewhat rhetorical question, but when you wrote, what was the title of your first book in 84?
Zen and the Art of Writing. Zen and
the Art of Writing. And you were broke, you said, beyond broke, like, right? So this is the rhetorical question. Did you experience imposter syndrome while writing your book?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was part of the struggle, and that was part of the belief system that had to be cleaned up, because I'm writing and I'm realizing I'm writing in a dump. I'm writing on a wobbly desk. I'm writing on a $5 portable typewriter, and I have to punch those keys to get a letter to go up back then. We have
Oh
it
my
so
gosh.
easy today compared to some of the
Right.
things people before us went. And so, yeah, I would go through that whole period like, who cares? Who's going to read this? Who's ever going to buy this, let alone care about it, let alone read this? And how long is it going to be before there's any sort of breakthrough? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't have enough of anything to offer. And Ken, as I say those things, I realize those were the very beliefs that needed to be questioned. I'm not good enough. That is a popular belief in the masses. Subconsciously, they think, I'm not going to do it because I'm not good enough. I'm not going to change. I'm not good enough. Or I'm too old, or I'm too small, or I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too whatever. All of those are beliefs. And one of the things I tell people is you got to become aware and have the discernment to be alert to when you're stating something that's a fact and something that's a belief. If I say I'm not good enough and treat it as a fact, I will create that. I will look around and go, look, there's all the evidence that I'm not good enough, because I didn't realize that's a belief, not a fact. And that's
Wow.
part of the wake ups that I've had, and I'm hoping to pass on to people, is listen to your self-talk. Napoleon Hill, one of the greatest books ever written by anybody, and a book
Yeah.
that he wrote that was published after his passing, was Outwitting the Devil. Outwitting the Devil. When I first started reading Outwitting the Devil, my palms were sweating,
Oh,
because
so good.
I thought he was talking about some sort of like a religious pitchfork devil, until it
Yeah.
started to dawn on me, another awakening in that book. The devil was my own mind. My mind is the one that could stop me. My mind is the one that could talk me out of doing things like, you're not good enough, you're too stupid, you wouldn't go through all that stuff. We need to be aware of the mind. We need to be aware of the devilish part. And as I suggest, you need to create a cheerleader in your own mind. You're the witness to all of these voices. You can create one that encourages you instead of
Amen.
condemns you. So all of this is fascinating. I love talking about this stuff, and you're such a great interviewer. I just want to talk all day. It's like,
Hey, if you've got all day, I'll make the time. No, I love listening to you. You have no idea how honored I am that I'm even able to sit here and interview you and your genius. Like it's incredible. And everything that you're saying, like, Sharon Lecter did the Outwitting the
yes,
Devil with
yes,
the Napoleon Hill, and it's so powerful. It's like one of the most powerful
yeah,
books I
I
think
agree.
ever
I
of
agree.
all time. Um, I want to go back though, because you wrote this first book in '84, and it took me so long to overcome that. I don't know if overcome's the right word. Get beyond that. Um, the it's the syndrome I was just talking about.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome.
Thank you.
Imposter.
I couldn't think of the word imposter. See, that's how much I don't even believe in it. But so I had that forever. I mean, forever and ever. And no matter what I did, no matter how big of an accomplishment I made, I still always felt not good enough. Like, what am I doing? Why am I even trying this? Right. So you did this thing in '84, but you just kept writing more books, even though you didn't sell many, we'll say many,
Mhm.
of the first one. You just kept going. You kept writing anyway.
Yeah.
When did it all really start? Because look, I'm thinking the chair that you are currently sitting in is probably more valuable than the apartment you were living in when you wrote that first book. I'm just, I'm kidding, but like,
No, actually, that is a great thing to highlight, because, right, this chair costs more than the rent that was for that one room apartment that had the toilet and the bed and the kitchen in the same room. Yeah, you're right.
oh,
Yeah, times have changed.
right, right. But where did it shift? What happened? Was there an event? Was there ever a big like occurrence that you were like, this is when it happened. Like, that's when I knew, okay, I'm on the right path here. It's happening for me.
It is a wonderful question. And there's a lot of little sub stories I can tell you, but I'm going to tell you one that I think was a true turning point in my confidence in myself and in my path through life. And I think it's when Nightingale Conant published my first audio program, which I think was 98. It was called The Power of Outrageous Marketing. So let me back up and tell you, I had tried to be with Nightingale Conant for 10 years. And I would send them my books. I'd send them letters. I love Nightingale Conant. I was a customer of Nightingale Conant. I devoured their cassettes. I just lived this material. Brian Tracy and Wayne Dyer and the gang, all of these names that are maybe forgotten, but Zig Ziglar and Earl Nightingale, all of them. I just loved them. I ate them. I breathed them. And I wanted to be a Nightingale Conant author. It took 10 years. 10 years. And finally, because of a guy who had found one of my books, who turned out to work for Nightingale Conant, he got me in the door. I went there and I recorded my first program. And I was awkward and I was insecure, but the Nightingale Conant was taking me in. They were believing in me. That was the vote of confidence that I needed. And I felt transformed. I felt like a confidence level had awakened in me that I didn't have at any other point in my entire life. With that first audio program with Nightingale Conant, because I had such respect for them and because I had gone after them for 10 years to finally close the deal, be in the studios, be wined and dined by them, to be recording in the same studios as Wayne Dyer and Zig Ziglar and Earl Nightingale and the whole gang of legends. And I'm there.
Wow.
That was a turning point. I remember I came home after being in Chicago and doing the recording, and I was speaking to my wife at the time, and she said, "You sound completely different." And I think the speaker voice clicked in. It was like the Nightingale Conant studio voice level of confidence clicked. And I came back as a new part of my personality. Now, of course, I went on and recorded lots of programs with Nightingale Conant. And I have a letter from, it was the president of Nightingale at the time, who said my program at that point was the #1 bestseller out of all programs for all of Nightingale Conant. And it was my program called The Missing Secret. The Missing Secret. So I would say that was definitely a turning point in my life.
That's powerful. That's so. Are they still around right now? They're
still around. They don't operate the studios that I'm aware of, and I don't know what they're selling. But Nightingale.com is still around, and their audios are on Amazon and Audible and those places.
So powerful. You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm an Amazon influencer, and I'm one of a handful of people authorized to live stream directly to Amazon.
Oh, I had no idea.
And I've had Dr. John Gray, Mark and Crystal, a lot of people I interview on Amazon, and I want to invite you to come on Amazon with me.
I'd be honored.
And I mean, no better way to ask than publicly, so you can't say no.
Yeah, what am I going to say? Hell no. How offensive is that?
Yeah, right. No, I don't want to sell more books. Are you crazy? So I'd love to have you on, though. We'd have a lot of fun with that. But look, Dr. Joe, your time is incredibly valuable. I'm so freaking grateful for. I could sit here all day and talk about this. Like, this is my jam, and I know, and obviously it's yours. But listening to you, a legend and one of my heroes, this is one of the best days of my life. So, thank you so much for who you are. Your authenticity, your transparency, man. And I have your website scrolling across the bottom, mrfire.com. If you're listening on the podcast network and you're not already following Dr. Joe, get out from underneath that rock and go ahead. And I'm kidding. People that follow me know that I joke like that, but go to mrfire.com, buy everything that Dr. Joe is selling on there, follow him on all platforms. you're doing a lot on Instagram. I see what you're doing on Instagram. You're doing a lot of stuff. Well
Yeah,
done.
I'm very active on Instagram and a lot of social media. I post something new virtually every day. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Vitale on Instagram.
Dr. Joe Vitale on at Dr. Joe Vitale.
Yes. Yes.
So make sure you're following him. Before we shut this down, the live stream, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience that, I remember real fast, I had a guy walk into my office one day and that worked for me, big old boy. And he says, hey, there's a dude looking in the windows of your SUV out in the parking lot. And I said, well, dude, you're bigger than me. Go kick his butt or something. Like, get him out of here. He's like, he's blocking it with his tow truck. I was like, oh, I said, okay. So I go out there and, they're taking my car. And I had 3 employees standing in the parking lot with me, watching me get my car repossessed.
Oh.
It was a wonderful day. I remember thinking, that's it. Life is over. I can't recover from this. My ego was so bruised. For those people who may be going through it right now, like their electric's being shut off or has been, or they, what do you say to them to give them the hope and the energy and the courage to just keep moving forward one more day?
Yeah. Great question. There's so many different ways to answer that. First of all, I want people to know I relate. Back in the 70s, I had a shotgun and I was so despondent, so miserable, so depressed. I took that shotgun, went in the back, and I fired it at the ground to be sure it worked. And then I loaded it and I turned it on myself. I was going to end it all. And the reason I didn't is because of one word, and that was curiosity. I kept thinking, what if tomorrow changes? What if next week changes? What if next month changes? What if next year changes? And I end it all now and I miss out on this. That was in the 70s. I obviously didn't do it, and it was not an overnight success, but thank God I got up another day, because the sun always rises again. And had I ended it, I would have missed out on the most glorious 70 some years and more coming, with the books, 90 some books, music, 15 some albums, movies, 20 some movies, my own movie, the presidential thing, which I never even knew what that was. And here it is being put around my neck, a medal and the whole thing. And my own movie coming out and all these other things happening. The sun always rises. All storms stop. Everything comes to pass. Hang in there one more day. Get up every day and go for your dreams. Persistence wins.
If that I have full body chills right now. Full body. If that doesn't motivate you to follow Dr. Joe, I don't know what it would take. Dr. Joe, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today and sharing and being a part of this show. You're going to make the opening reel now, by the way. So,
well, I really know I've made it now. I'm going to make the opening sizzle reel for Ken.
Well, Cleona says we're all crying. It's so true. I'm blown away. Thank you.
I would invite people to sign up at the NapoleonHillInstitute.com, because Cleona and I and the wonderful staff there, we're doing events. We have a lot of things happening, and we're bringing to life and showing how to apply Napoleon Hill's wisdom. So go to NapoleonHillInstitute.com and sign up to be on the list, and I'll be able to see people that way as well. And Ken, thank you. I can't thank you enough. This has been a glorious, fun, insightful, inspiring time. I really love you and what you're doing, so I support you in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Jeez, just to have you say that. Okay, so this is the final episode of Breakthrough Walls. It'll never happen again because all of my dreams have now come true. So I'm kidding. I'm kidding. it'll continue on, but my gosh, this has been amazing. So thank you so much. And everybody watching, please, if you've not shared this out, please find the inspiration and share this out with everybody you know. Share it multiple times because people need to hear this message. Thank you all so much. Dr. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
hang on tight with me if you would. I'm going to end the live stream. We'll see everybody very soon. Make sure you're following Dr. Joe Vitale. Go to MrFire.com and also go to NapoleonHillInstitute.com. Get signed up for all that stuff because they're having live events. You're going to be able to meet Dr. Joe and Cleona, and I'll be at the next event. You're going to be able to meet some of these amazing people. So just go get signed up. See you guys later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.